I'm your host, Davida Shensky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits, Reach Personal Success on a Daily Basis. And we talk about personal relationships, mental health, personal development, personal growth, psychology, and any issue that can help you to understand yourself better and change your behavior and decide to reach goals that you want so that you can leave a legacy for the future. And today we're talking about nonviolent communication, how to clearly communicate what you actually need. Do you want to improve your communication with others? What about improving your thoughts about yourself and truly understanding where these thoughts are coming from? Or do you want to learn how you can best express your feelings? It might all come down to unveiling your needs as well as listening for others' needs. So, hear me out on this one. I'm not someone to get into the woo woo side of things. I'm actually very scientifically and data driven when it comes to improving my health and life. But recently, I started reading the book entitled Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall Rosenberg. The funny thing is, I had heard about the book years ago. What stopped me from picking it up? I thought it sounded a little too woo woo, but no other communication or mental health or self help book has made more sense to me than this one. So, because I've gained so much from this book, and I still have about 100 pages of it left to go, I wanted to share with you the basics of nonviolent communication and how it applies to almost every facet of life and how it might just be the key to healthy relationships when those you love and yourself. So, what is nonviolent communication? Put simply, nonviolent communication approaches communication with ourselves and others through nonviolent means and by actually saying what you feel and need. The basis for this form of communication is derived from empathy and empathy for ourselves and for others. The problem with everyday communication today is that we often communicate our thoughts as opposed to the true feelings and needs behind them. This creates a hostile environment of blame, judgment, and criticism. Nonviolent communication aims to eliminate violence in our language and prevent escalation while communicating what we really want to communicate. Basically, nonviolent communication involves four steps: observation, feeling, need, and request. Observation: to start when we hear something or we think something, we want to separate observation from evaluation. So, in the book, Marshall Rosenberg states, for most of us, it is difficult to make observations, especially of people and behavior that are free of judgment, criticism, and other forms of analysis. For instance, this means stating that your husband dishes have been on the counter for 2 days as opposed to jumping into your dishes are always left on the counter. You might say instead, I've noticed the dishes have been on the counter for 2 days. Notice the difference? Might we react differently to these two scenarios? Probably. The first puts the person on the defense and doesn't truly solve the issue. Feeling. After observation, it's about feeling attached to that. So, an example I've noticed your dishes have been on the counter for 2 days. I feel stressed. Note that a feeling is usually one word. It's not, I feel as though no one cares about orderliness, which isn't actually a feeling. Here's the difference. I've noticed that your dishes have been on the counter for 2 days and I feel stressed as opposed to I feel as though no one cares about orderliness, which isn't actually a feeling. Need. Then it's about the need attached to the feeling. Whenever we feel something, particularly something negative, it's about an unmet need. So, what need isn't being met? Is this example? It might be I've noticed my dishes or your dishes have been on the counter for 2 days. I feel stressed because I need our shared spaces to be clean and orderly. See the difference? I'm going to say this again. I noticed that your dishes have been on the counter for 2 days. I feel stressed because I need our shared spaces to be clean and orderly. Request. Lastly, there is usually a request. We rarely communicate in a way where we aren't requesting something from someone else, even if it's just a simple acknowledgement. In this example, it might involve I've noticed that your dishes have been on the counter for 2 days. I feel stressed because I need our shared space to be clean and orderly. Would you mind cleaning up your dishes on the same day that you use them? Boom. You're not putting the other person on the defense, and you communicated how you felt and what you needed. The last part is important that it's a request and not a demand. People are less likely to want to do something if we demand it of them. For harmony, it has to be out of their own free will. What is the purpose of nonviolent communication? The purpose is to foster connection between individuals and ourselves. And the author of the book is truly believes that there is a connection that can resolve conflict and prevent misunderstandings as well as generally bring us closer together. In fact, sometimes we don't even need to do anything about a conflict besides understand each other. So, what is an example of nonviolent communication? Now, here's the cool bit. You can use nonviolent communication with yourself. For instance, maybe you feel really angry about something. Pause and question yourself. What is the unmet need here? What would you require to meet that need? Nonviolent communication can also be used to try to understand the needs of others. when they are expressing strong emotions. Usually, we communicate our thoughts, and it's important to recognize this and try to ask questions to get to their feelings and needs. Paraphrasing and voicing back what you're hearing can help do this. But I highly recommend reading the book for these types of situations. Another quick example of nonviolent communication is I noticed that I took out the trash the last 2 weeks. I feel a bit frustrated because I need us both to be contributing and sharing house chores. Would you mind taking out the trash when you notice it's full? How do you practice nonviolent communication? As stated above, it's using the same framework in almost every situation, including with your own thoughts and feelings. Some individuals even swear by writing the steps down and pausing, then referring to them when they need them to find themselves getting particularly heated in a discussion. It's also important to note that nonviolent communication can also involve other tactics, such as taking a break for a few minutes or half an hour to calm emotions so that you can come back and tackle the issue the way you would like and not from a reactionary standpoint. So, to recap, here are the steps again and what they mean. Observation. You observe what has happened without judgment or blame, just facts. Feelings. You state a feeling that has come up and associated with this observation. Needs. You state the need that is associated with the feelings. Request. Make a request to meet your needs. All of the above comes from a place of empathy and compassion and the realization that we all are human with thoughts rooted in our past experiences. We are all doing the best we can. However, truly understanding each other comes down to addressing or even simply understanding each other's feelings and needs. So use nonviolent communication in every part of your life. You can use it at work, between colleagues, or with your boss. You can use it in romantic relationships or friendships. It can be used with strangers, and it is a great go to for untangling your own feelings and needs. Have you tried communicating using these steps? It literally might just change your life. If you haven't already, I definitely recommend getting the book and reading it through from front to back. The biggest thing to remember is communication, how we communicate with each other. And I remember many, many years ago talking to someone who had an interest in starting a podcast on communication, but never did because he felt he would never, ever have enough to talk about with communication. And as you see from what we just talked about, communication in almost every aspect of our life is is so important, and how we talk to someone and relate to them is a very important aspect of the kind of relationships we have and whether they're healthy relationships or poor relationships.